I'm D,
I'm Will.
and we're the Simple Complex Men. So excited to be back again. I know it's been a minute. How you been doing, brother Will? Excited. It's probably been about 4 or 5 months.
Give or
so
take, give or
yeah,
take.
yeah, yeah. But who's counting?
Yeah,
So
more giving, more giving.
yeah. So just excited, we're just excited just to be back, man. And I know everybody's wondering, what's been going on. We haven't seen you brothers on here a while. So brother Will, I'll kind of let you share what's been going on in your life for the last 4 or 5 months.
Right. Well, just family time, school, and just getting some goals down, kind of trying to refocus myself for some things, just being
Right.
careful about some things in my life. Been dealing with some challenges here and there, so definitely been taking some time to reflect, rest, a lot of work. But gotta find time to do those things that I felt that the Lord laid on my heart to do. So
Yeah, just a lot of stuff going on, between work and I actually moved. So that was a transition. So I had to kind of get settled with that. You all probably see the title. We coming back deep, Will. We we came back, we on reparations. We didn't
gotta
even
go black.
yeah, we're not even warming up. And you notice, you see we got the black on. We blacked out. You don't get no blacker than this. We're black, the shirt black, the background black. I don't even know what else to say.
Only thing that's not black is the president.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Oh, see, hey, look, YouTube. I didn't say that. That's brother Will. You see what I'm saying? Just edit him out. Don't take me off YouTube. Just cut Will half off the screen.
If
But
I say Obama, the algorithm gonna be like, "Hey,
yeah, yeah,
put it to the front."
yeah. He's in the algorithm now. Algorithm activated.
Right.
He's like, man, we got 1 million views, brother. Say it
Right.
again.
Right.
But
Obama.
in the spirit, man, or speaking in tongues.
Right.
So
What I want to say to understand reparations and
he said, yeah, you got to work on your Obama a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, bro, but it was close, man. It was close,
that's
man.
Obama after the White House.
Oh, that's okay.
He lost energy. I was
Oh, he can't even do it no more. It's like, man, that whole Martin Luther King thing. It was cute when I was, in the White House, but throw that
right.
whole thing away. I know San Francisco has been putting a document proposal together to be able to obtain reparations for the citizens over in San Francisco as well. So we're going to just take a quick look at that, and we'll just kind of talk about it a little bit.
Don't forget DC and Maryland too. They've been looking at it. Maryland has one they're looking at as well currently.
Yeah. So we're gonna, like I said, take a quick look at the article that came out. It's about NPR .org, I believe. And yeah, we definitely gonna talk about it. I know it's a major hot topic. I know brother Will, you was saying even in some other states as well.
Yeah.
They were talking about it too.
Yeah. Powers that be are definitely talking, and that's a good sign. Once you start the conversation, we've had this conversation a long time, but it seems that in this age where people are kind of, for lack of better words, eye pleasing
Yeah.
to other minority groups, it seems like this is the time for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just
Yeah.
it seems like, but say, yeah, like I said, looking at the NPR, and I know other news outlets have been definitely talking about it and creating articles. But this was kind of one we ran across here. So it basically talk about how it looks like they had a vote. 11 members accepted a draft plan of more than 100 reparation recommendations for the city's eligible Black residents. Those proposals include a whopping one-time payment of $5 million to each adult and a complete clearing of personal debt, including credit cards, taxes, student loans, Black residents would also be able to collect an annual income of at least $97,000 for 250 years and buy homes within the city limits for $1. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of leave that there and just kind of get into it. As you can say, this is the proposal. They do have it up on the website as well. Actually, there's a link in here for the Reparations Advisory Committee, and they have like a 60-page. I think it's called San Francisco Reparations.org or something like that. And it actually you can read the whole proposal on there that they have laid out. But yeah, brother, this I mean, 5 million. Credit cards, taxes, student loans, $97,000 basically annual income, so whatever you're making right now, I mean, that's on top of that, so, and that's for 250 years, and you can buy homes within the city limits for $1. And what you think? What you thinking, brother Will? This sounding real good, brother.
If
This sounding real good.
California didn't have a lot of the issues they had, a brother might be looking at relocating.
Yeah. But that's a good point. That's a good point, brother. And it's quite interesting that, I just wonder how beneficial it could be. We're seeing everybody leave like the Exodus, to Texas and some other places, that's more tax friendly. So I don't know, getting it in California. Are we losing money? Would they be losing money there? Far as from a tax position, since all the wealthy are leaving there. So I don't know. I don't know. But
What's
yeah, what you
interesting?
think, brother?
Yeah, what's interesting too when you think about it, because there was a great migration historical event where a lot of blacks in the southern states got tired of the prejudice, they got tired of the discrimination, and they started moving north. And that's kind of how a lot of blacks ended up in the northern regions when they left the southern. So even myself, I have a lot of family in the Carolinas. As for a lot of people in the DMV and
Yeah.
northern states that's of African American descent. And so with that being said, it could, it's more if states really start to adopt reparations, it could trigger another great migration.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so yeah, that's a major thing that I think it's going to be a lot of things I think is going to kind of come out of it, in the end. But what are your thoughts about the article in general?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a good start. It seems
Yeah,
well thought out so far. It's definitely going to be some red tape they have to get through and a lot of arguments they're going to have to be had. But
yeah,
I definitely think that they're desiring to go forward with this is definitely a good start.
yeah, absolutely. I mean,
It can also stimulate the economy.
yeah, but like I said, we know there's a lot of I guess pros and cons to it. And that's one thing we would like to do on Simple Complex Men. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the pros, but also we're gonna talk about the cons. I know everybody got a lot of different talking points and a lot of feelings, especially as it relates to reparations. I mean, what in your mind, brother? What is reparations to you? Because I notice people even get caught up on that as to what is it to what is reparations, basically.
So what I looked at, the definition I got was from the Oxford Dictionary,
Okay.
and it said the making of amends for a wrong one has done by paying of money to other or otherwise helping those who have been wronged. So it's simply just compensating others for the wrong that you've done to them. And it can be monetary, it can be numerous things. But the key takeaway is you recognize the fact that you've done wrong. And now you have a desire to offer some relief. Because it
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's more
Yeah.
sometimes sorry just don't cut it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just don't cut
It's yeah, you can't be taking people feet off and lynching
My
and
bad.
all that and say, my bad.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. You go to the car dealership and God forbid your car fall off of the lift. no, I don't think anybody will settle for our bad, my bad. They're gonna be
Yeah.
like, no, yeah,
Yeah.
you're bad, but you gonna fix this.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's one of the pros to going to a mechanic and not being outside of a makeshift mechanic that you might have called from a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
If they mess up your car, you got to eat that loss.
Yeah,
You know,
basically.
it's
He
on
just
insurance.
short.
That's the loss, lesser price, but that's the risk you take.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, I like, I mean, it's basically like you said, brother, you're just repairing.
Mhm.
You're just repairing the individual. That's all it is. And I know some people, on different sides, different positions, feel like, well, it's not fair, we shouldn't be doing this, we shouldn't be repairing the people. But I'm like, obviously, I mean, we've done it, the country have done it, multiple times. So I feel like, we got all these movies talking about it. We're we got holidays, we got all type of symbolism and symbolic things in reference to it, but we don't have any tangible assets or anything to go with it. And I guess I feel like personally that I feel like they want us to be content with the symbolism versus some real practical, tangible things that we can really pass down generationally and it could really impact, because a movie, all of that can't really, it's not really impact. I mean, to me, I don't know about you, but I'm about tired of watching slave movies and you know what I mean?
And I was one of those people that kind of felt like, we don't need no handouts,
Right.
things aren't perfect, but they're nowhere near as bad as they once were. Let's focus on the community and fix the wrongs that we've done ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's good. But at the same time, through my research and looking at everything, it's like, yeah, man, it's like to not offer reparations to the Black community would be a huge level of gross misconduct
Yeah.
on the behalf of local and federal government,
Yeah.
because you can't escape it. Slavery is this country's worst act. Well, I won't even say worse because we're
Yeah.
on stolen land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
So the monstrosities that happen in this country, as much as people praise the founding fathers, we also have to acknowledge the wrong that they allowed to happen during their watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's right is right. If they did it and they held people back every step of the way, though there were those amongst them that try to go in a different direction, it still needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It
do
still
you
needs to
think
be
too
addressed.
much time has passed? I mean, because that's one of the big things. And like I said, I mean, it feel like it's the martyring people battling the past, or trying to get out of uh repaying or repairing anyone. Now, I guess my question is, and even like you said with the Oxford Dictionary, it didn't have to me, I didn't hear a time frame for that.
Right.
But I hear a lot of people, and I don't know how you feel about that, but a lot of people on the opposing side feel like, oh, that was 100 years ago. Why do we have to pay for it? We didn't do anything. I didn't put your great grandparent in slavery or lynch anyone. Why should I have to pay for it? How you feel about that, brother?
Yeah, I mean, as far as time go, it has too much time passed. From what I've seen, that both federal and local agencies have done, they've shown us themselves that there's no statute of limitation on reparation. I mean, just in 2005, um, what was it? J.P. Morgan apologized for their ties to the slave trade,
Yeah,
and they set up a $5 million scholarship fund for blacks
yeah,
in 2005.
yeah, yeah,
And then you have also the federal government has paid out billions of dollars to Native Americans, to different tribes, for the role they played in taking their land. And the individuals that took their land, they're dead and gone.
Yeah.
The Native
Yeah.
Americans who had the land taken from them, they're dead and gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their descendants were the recipients.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't see any statute of limitations, even with
Yeah.
the Japanese Americans that were in prison during World War II.
Yeah.
The federal government paid our reparations to them.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's one thing if they didn't give anything to anyone. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But they've done it.
Yeah.
And it's in the billions. The billions.
Just slap. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because, like you said, brother, and to piggyback on what you were saying, just looking back at the article, because it even referenced just what you just said. It talks about how the Native Americans received land, billions of dollars, for being exiled. Japanese Americans incarcerated during World War II were eventually paid 1.5 billion in restitutions, and the American government played an instrumental role in ensuring that the Jews receive reparations for the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you can, and anyone listening, you can go online and just Google, just type in U.S. reparation payments, and you can see the long list, you know, of what we've done, and even beyond that, brother. I mean, just look at and this, and I mean, this is just such a hot topic, man. I mean, I pulled up the foreign aid. Let's just talk about foreign aid to these other countries. Let's just get into it because, you know, we're saying, oh, you know, we don't have the funds, you know, we can't, it's going to bankrupt the country. It only seems to bankrupt the country when it pertains to giving reparations to the descendant of slaves. And that's another thing, you know, even with the terminology as well. I don't know if you're familiar, but I know Dr. Claude Anderson, who I really subscribed to over the years, and his information, I know he used to say native Black Americans. That was his terminology to kind of separate. And I know we'll kind of talk about that as well, as far as, you know, because it's a lot of people under the Black part, you know, so who should get it and stuff like that and things. But, and I know, was it Tariq Nasheed uses and if anybody's listening and you have it, just type it in there. I don't know. It just kind of slipped my mind. If it come back to me, I'll repeat it. But anyway, the goal is to kind of, you know, focus on those specific individuals as well. But let's just look at this though. 10 countries, and this is from US News, that received foreign obligations from US in 2020. Afghanistan, 3.97 billion. Israel, 3.31 billion. Jordan, 2.6 billion. Egypt, 1.47 billion. Ethiopia, 1.21 billion. Iraq, 1.18 billion. Nigeria, 1.11 billion. The list goes on and on and on. Where are we getting this money to just be divvying out all the time with things? We just, what, Ukraine? We just gave billions to Ukraine. You know, so I'm confused. Yeah. I'm confused, bro.
Some will argue, well, you know, they're our allies and this is going on.
So what are we?
Yeah.
Chop suey? I don't know. What is it? It was like,
because, you know, in my
fought in wars and everything.
Yeah, because in my research, you know, one of the things that I found, a good amount of presidents owned slaves, or at least had used slave labor in the White House.
Yeah.
And though even in the original 13 colonies, slavery was allowed. Yeah. But later on, the Union began to gradually push away from slavery, and it became to be the dominant factor of the southern states. But still, even though a lot of the northern states were against slavery, they were still profiting from slavery. They were still manufacturing. They were still doing trading with the southern states. So it's kind of like not all of the states were participating in slavery, but leadership. And we talk about the Missouri Compromise, and that was kind of one of the things I wanted to bring up real quick.
Okay.
When we look at the Missouri Compromise of 1820, they admitted Missouri into the Union as a slave state and Maine as a non-slave state, to not accept the balance of free states and slave states in the nation. The Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 repealed the Missouri Act, the Missouri Compromise, created two new territories and allowed for popular sovereignty. So states were able to determine whether or not if they wanted to adopt slavery. So that sounds like to me, what is it when someone doesn't actually commit the crime, but they didn't prevent the crime?
Yeah, yeah.
What is that terminology?
So they were a start with a
Accessory.
C. Yeah, accessory.
Accessory.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So even though, like California, some people in California say, "Hey, California is a free state."
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, California was a free state, but I'm pretty sure if you dug into the books, you'll find ways that California profited from slavery.
yeah,
And then, um, when we talk about California and slavery, they were still part of the Union, which also, and let's not pretend 1 minute that just
yeah,
because slavery was outlawed in northern states, that blacks weren't mistreated
yeah,
there.
yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
And that's the thing, like you said, the fact that it's going, you know, whether it was outlawed or not, all the way up to 1970, 60, we still were dealing with it went from slavery to what we would call modern, I guess, racism.
Yeah.
Um, and so we still were cut out of a lot of things. We still were would you get into redlining. We had situations, couldn't get houses, couldn't get loans, all types of things. Even now, there was a situation I heard about where a couple was getting, I might have been, I don't know if it was California on the West Coast. I feel like it was, but I have to look that article back up. But they were apparently they got a appraiser to appraise their home, and they appraised it, black couple, and they received a low value for the home, but then they got someone to pretend their their white friend to pretend that they were the owner, and the appraisal came out high.
Mhm.
So they're, I believe, now kind of looking at that sue. But I
Right.
mean, those things, like I said, still exist,
Mhm.
in what's going on. And so, and of course, in jobs and things of that nature. So yeah,
Yeah.
brother.
And slave codes,
Yep.
further,
Yep.
I just looked up. This comes from commatters.org. It says, though California joined the Union as a free state under the Compromise of 1850, the state's fugitive slave law allowed enslaved people to remain under bondage as long as they were later deported to the South. So
Mm,
a lot of states had slave codes.
yeah.
But like I said, even though they weren't saying, okay, we're practicing slavery, they had slave codes.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
states
Yeah.
had slave codes.
And look, don't even let's 13th
Yep.
Amendment. Don't get into the prison industrial complex.
Mhm.
That's still, that comes from that time. We've never dealt with that yet.
Yeah.
We're profiting. We got America has the biggest prison population in the world for, what I mean? So that's ridiculous. We have such a large amount of our population in prison. But again, it goes back to the same benefit that they were getting in slavery,
Mhm.
free labor or cheap labor at the minimum.
Yeah.
They making furniture. They used to do the license plates. Now they gone beyond that. They doing all types of stuff in there, and of course that's saving money.
Mhm.
But what to at what expense though to our population and to our country?
Yeah. And to piggyback on what you said, because Washington, D.C., um, they didn't have slaves per se, as far as you saw in the South,
Right.
but um, they still leased slaves from slave owners who came down there and worked and helped build DC into what it is today. And yes, they were fed, they were clothed, they were housed, but they still only receive a fraction of pay, while their masters received the bulk of the pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after they were done with them, they would send them back down south, or keep them confined in cages until it was time for them to go back down
Yeah.
south.
Yeah.
So let's not pretend like everything was great,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the north, because it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah. And
It
even
wasn't.
deeper, man, even on another level. I mean, let's be honest. Now we're not going to take out, because I can hear people saying, well, what about blacks that participated or Africans and etc. Yeah, that is true. And they owe too. Any of those
Yeah,
African countries, that sold us, into it on the West Coast, West Africa.
yeah,
Absolutely. And we'll appreciate the apology that was given several years ago from those African countries. But at the same time, there got to be something tangible that comes with that. And
yeah,
even even in our country, I believe it was an individual of Anthony Johnson, to my recollection, that was a black slave owner, in America. And so I'm not saying, evil is evil. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if somebody can find a way to uh profit off of it, they will. No different than the drugs in our community. We can say, oh man, we kept doing, the white man doing this and that. But the reality is we out here pushing the product, you know. So you're always going to have a portion of the population that will take advantage of even of their own community, but it still doesn't take away from the fact, that, that it was legal. It was a actual, in the actual law.
yeah,
So that's totally different from citizen to citizen. When you make something an actual state law, federal law, that's something totally different to me. I don't know
yeah,
how you feel about that, brother.
yeah. Same thing. That's something totally different. Something totally different because we will probably never know the lasting impacts of that slavery had on African Americans. And the thing is, reparations was promised. And I want to
Yeah,
make note of Union General William T. Sherman. And we all heard the terminology 40 acres and a mule was promised.
yeah,
Spike Lee named his film company 40 acres and a mule. That was the thing. And what happened was after the Civil War, Union General William T. Sherman, he introduced Article number 15. And it was like 400,000 acres that the Union soldiers had confiscated from the South, from plantation owners. And they was set to redistribute that land up to no more than 40 acres to the blacks in our region, about 40,000 blacks. They was going to give them that land.
right.
And not too far long after he decided, and Lincoln was going to go forward, let's push it forward. And he did.
Yeah.
But as soon as President Andrew Johnson took over from Lincoln, he repealed it.
Mm,
And most of that land was given back to the Southerners. And the blacks got nothing.
yeah, yeah.
Nothing.
And that's the sad part, this stuff. What I call it's funny. It feel like America is that friend
Yeah.
that you may ask them to to borrow some money or something like that, and they say they don't have it, but every
Yeah.
time you see them, they're spending money on things. Just like you just said you don't have any money, you broke, but now you got this big 60-inch screen TV, you got the Jordans on, you just bought a car. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah, but you're broke though. You don't have anything, but you seem to be able to purchase stuff when you need to get it.
It reminded me of that Instagram meme when they show like a guy was like eating good and everything else.
Yeah,
And he said, you know, I told you that I was broke, but I'm not broke for me. you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
I'm broke to you, but not to me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, two different,
you know,
two different perspectives. But no, that's true. I think that's how I feel because we're just sitting there watching, looking back and forth as America spends money here, runs from store to store, on
and
a
I quote
shopping spree.
Tupac. I don't quote Tupac too often,
Yeah,
but he said it. It hurts when it rains and pours. We have money for wars, but can't feed the poor.
yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
So it's one of those things. So with that being said, bro, when we talking about reparations, it's like, how do you think with all of these committees, how do they determine who may be eligible for reparations? And we going to get rid of
yeah.
that whole saying people of color. We're going to be
Yeah.
specific, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
People of color is a relatively new term. We're going to say
Yeah.
African Americans, okay?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
descendants of slaves.
Yeah, 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 and
Okay?
that's true. Like I was saying earlier, you have to get really precise because even the term minority,
Hmm.
you got to be careful with that term because you start adding in even white women. You know, you could add all types of people fits into minority, and so
Yeah,
those little words they play the word game with us, and then we don't end up getting any of the money. You know, so because you can classify everybody else into those groups, you
right.
know, and so that's the importance of terminology as descendants of slaves, native uh Americans, or not Native American, native Black Americans. And like I said, the verbiage used by Tariq Nasheed and their movement that they have going on as well, um, which is critical. You know, we have to narrow our words down because if we get broad, broad is the way of destruction. You know, narrow is the way. You know, so it's so important. So I think it starts there. Now, if we're talking about how do we uh, trace back lineage, I mean, we have all of these ancestry.com, we have African ancestry.com, we have all of these different sites that we can actually go to and link up with, and we may already have, some people still have their family trees and lineage and things like that. I know I was able to pull some stuff even from ancestry.com that had a lot of my family information in it as well. And so I think everybody working together, it can happen, but I don't think we can start from it can't happen. We can't say it's impossible. If we can go to we in space doing things and we can create all this technology and all this stuff and cars that don't need anyone, to be in them to drive and all of that, we can figure out, we can trace some things. And so I just feel like that's an excuse being used to not really properly repair us, so I think it's definitely starts with the verbiage, and then also like I said, just working on the other elements as well.
Like you mentioned, 23andMe, Ancestry.com. Those are great things. And I think that it may have to be a push for local and federal governments to kind of partner with
Yeah.
those organizations because they already have a pretty exhaustive database
Yeah. Yeah.
from African Americans who have signed up, myself included.
Yeah.
And not everybody may want to take on the tedious task of tracing back their lineage. So maybe they can come up with some way to spearhead it. Because if you do it one way, what's to stop somebody from forging documents and stuff
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, once it like puts a federal type of seal on it, or come up with some method where somebody can submit information. It'll take time. That's a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
another part in
Yeah.
the process, trying to find out. We wish we could leave it to an honor system,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, some people may take advantage. Because I know that when they was giving land to, I think, Native Americans, some laws were saying that if you had like such and such percentage of Native American blood, you were eligible.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? 2%, 3%, you're eligible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people were pretending to be Native American.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're the $5 Indian. I think they paid
Yeah,
$5. Yeah.
I'm an Indian now.
Yeah. Yeah. $5. You know.
Yeah. So
So,
people were doing that, and so I
yeah.
think definitely you would have to have some good ways of tracing that lineage. So also, like you had mentioned, um a lot of citizens are saying, why should they have to pay for reparations
Yeah. Oh,
when
real brother, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just came back to my mind.
okay,
Foundational Black Americans.
okay, I
That's
never
what
heard
it
of
was. Foundational Black Americans.
it. Okay.
I'm gonna make sure I make that statement. I'm sorry about that, brother.
Yeah. And so so it was like a lot of citizens was feeling like, and even some black share that sentiment. A lot of black share that sentiment, saying, "Hey, they're right. They, we can't say that every white person was a descendant of slave owners. That's just not true. It
Right.
was a
Right.
business. Not
Yeah.
everybody in the southern states owned slaves, right?
Yeah.
That was a business.
Yeah.
So it's like they're thinking, okay, why should we have to pay? And I guess the translation is more taxes that we have to
Yeah,
pay in
yeah,
order to pay for
yeah.
this. So
Inflation,
yeah.
etc.
So what do you say to that? Is there like any method to kind of like calm their fears? Because those same fears
Sure.
can dictate how they vote.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know there's several people, of course, have different methodologies and approaches that they're utilizing. I heard one that was talking about spreading it out over no more than 10 years, and basically putting it into like maybe a trust or something like that, which, and the money, a certain amount of money kind of comes out every year to that particular person. And then that'll kind of help mitigate far as inflation taking place, with our US dollar. So that was one of the things that was put out as well. Now I don't put too, I mean, again, who paid for all the other reparations? Us. Who paid for, Ukraine and all this other stuff going on? Us. I mean, we're always going to pay for it. So it's not like, it's like the person that says, I deal with different customers, and sometimes they're like, well, I've heard people say, I'm a tax paying citizen. I'm like, me too. It's like I don't know what to say. Like, even though I'm on the other side of the counter, I'm still a tax paying citizen. So we're all here together doing this. So we win together, we lose together. That's just how it works, so I don't think we should make that as excuse. I mean, if we're really saying we are America and we have all these great ideologies and this whole liberty and the pursuit of happiness, quote unquote, then I feel like it definitely should be in our heart to repair a community, a people for what took place, which we're well aware of, for several hundred years.
Yeah, and I wish you on that one. And I'm really liking the whole treasury and adding to the pot, because there were a lot of organizations like Barclays, different banks, Bank of America. They are Chevy Chase. They obtained banks that were benefiting from slavery because they were insuring slaves and they were taking slaves as collateral for loans.
Yeah, yeah,
So, you know,
yeah.
so it's like, yeah, all of these organizations add to the pot. If a
Pay up.
state
Gotta
has
pay up.
slaves, add to the pot.
Yeah, yeah,
Add
yeah,
to the pot.
yeah. Because I mean, that's where you get the stock market started.
Mhm.
Stocks. What would
Yeah,
slaves put in? Stocks.
yeah. Wall Street. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
they gotta add to the pot.
It's like, so like I said, you know, my thing is forget trying to, because sometimes, like I said, because we can't figure out that aspect, we try to negate that it needs to be done at all. And I feel like that's just a way of making an excuse. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, we can't, we just because we may not have the solution to a problem doesn't mean that we say that there isn't a
I'm
problem.
sorry.
right.
I'm
Let's
really
acknowledge
sorry.
the problem and then
We're
we'll figure
sorry.
out a
All
solution.
circuits are busy.
You
Yeah,
know,
Please try.
because we have enough people here,
yeah.
hundreds of millions of people. We could put our minds together to figure out how can we properly repair a community of people.
And it goes back. When you hear that conversation, I know Candace Owens was definitely a proponent of it. Like they didn't own slaves. I
Yeah,
wasn't a slave.
yeah.
Larry Elder shared her
Larry Elder.
testimony, and Thomas Sowell, and it was like, yeah, that's true. But at the same time, when we think about Breonna Taylor, when we think
Yeah.
about,
Eric Garner.
yeah, their families receive
Yeah.
reparations. They were dead.
Yeah, yeah.
But the families, like malpractice. What is malpractice? If
Hey,
something happens to you on that table, your family receives some level of
yeah,
compensation for it.
yeah.
So let's get out of that whole avenue of, oh, if we didn't do it, we don't have to do anything. Nah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
try to argue against someone from receiving malpractice pay.
Yeah.
You're gonna look at them like they crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like keep that same energy.
Yeah.
Because just because you weren't the actual person that did it, if it happened under the watch of your state, under the watch of your federal government, under the watch of your company, pay up.
Yeah. And that's so true. And I know we got about a minute left on here, but the fact that, like you said, like as you were talking, I was just thinking about, say we had an issue with another country, you
Yeah.
know, they're gonna come back. If we bomb them, they're gonna come back and bomb America.
Right.
you know, they're not gonna get specific as to, which state did the missile come from or which base or whatever. They're coming
Right.
for America because we
Right.
signed up for this.
Yeah.
Just like a gang or anything.
Yeah.
If you're blood, crip, whatever it is, they're coming. It doesn't matter that you as an individual didn't do it. You
You got your
signed
colors
up for that.
on? You got
Yeah.
those colors on? Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
you got the colors, you representing,
Yep.
they're coming for you. And so that's how it is. This for good or bad,
What do you
So
think reparations should look like?
well, I mean, personally, I feel like it should start with we need to start with whatever the Native Americans receive. I think that's the starting point, So I believe, we need land. I think that's critical. We do not, that's one of the things. And if you notice, there's a lot of billionaires, wealthy people really buying up land, because that's where everything starts. You can't build nothing, unless it's going to be on land, so I definitely think we definitely need that land. Um, you know, also, I mean, we can look at college, I know a
Right.
lot of them get, free college, etc. I mean, that'll be a major help for our community, because a lot of people can't afford it and things of that nature, or they just the loans. I mean, loans is one of the biggest debts that we have in our country is college loans. Which, as we see, Biden, I don't know if it's going to go through, but they've been trying to waive that a certain portion, but I think we shouldn't have to pay loans. Again, I like what they talked about housing, because we were redlined and things happened to us where we weren't able to get in on the wealth, because property, having a home, is one of the biggest ways to build wealth, because of the appreciation value of your home. So I think we should be able to get these homes at a low rate. Taxes, I mean, we shouldn't be, I don't believe we should. I'm not saying we shouldn't pay any taxes. I mean, obviously, if we're using the roads and all that type of stuff, we should put something in the pot. But I believe we should pay the lowest, whatever the lowest bracket is, that we should always be at. I don't care if we make 200,000 a year. We're going to get taxed at 12%, whatever that bottom is. We are always below that. Um, and again, I mean, we can go on and on and on with the list. Um, and also, I believe there should be some cash. I know different people got opinions on that, but I believe cash is important because we have some things we may need to pay off, medical, or what may have you, or personal loans, bills, etc. That cash fusion would or even start a business. Had the money to start a business. That's another thing. Money
Yeah.
for black owned banks. That's another thing, making sure the banks, the black owned banks, have the proper capital and assets available. So then when we want to start a business, we can go to our black owned bank as a black community, and be able to get the funds that we need to be able to start that business. So we don't need a handout, quote unquote, and because we can start to allow that money to circulate back within our community. So, like I said, that's just a couple of things. Like I said, I know it's not an exhaustive list, but we can go on and on. But I think those are some of the critical elements that we need, because it's so easy to think lottery minded, and you got to be careful with that. You want to think how the wealthy think. What are the things they purchase to build wealth, and that's what we want.
Yeah. And I share that sentiment because one of the things I found out was that when General William T. Sherman was speaking to different Black leaders at that time, a lot of them which were pastors, asking them like, "Hey, we want to give you some kind of reparations for slavery.
Yeah.
What do you think is one of the main needs of Blacks?" And they were saying land.
Yeah.
We want the land. And so it's interesting because I would say today, because I'm definitely for land, but I would say today, definitely that free education would definitely do it. And I'm like, yeah, um, yeah, I was, I would say, hey, I would say, a minimum, at minimum, 4 years to an accredited university of your choice.
Okay.
Definitely,
So
definitely.
You think Yale and Princeton's going to let us in, Will?
Well,
Stanford, all of these descendants of slaves.
we'll open the books, and and it's a pretty good chance that
Yeah,
they profited from
yeah,
slavery in
yeah,
some way, just like Georgetown
yeah.
University opened their books, and they
Yeah.
said, "Ooh." So for everyone that's listening, look up college universities that's offering um a discounted um
Tuition rates.
tuition rates, scholarships. Try to find out, and if you can, do some legwork to try to find out where your ancestors were slaves, and 9 times out of 10, you can get a free ride or have most of your education paid for.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know I'm definitely going to look into some of them.
Yeah, yeah. And that's good. Somebody should, I don't know if they have a website, but that would be great if one was created that people can go to and
Yeah.
look up that information kind of all in one place.
Well,
Um,
JP Morgan's, if you Google JP Morgan Scholarship Fund, you
okay,
would find it. You would find
okay,
it.
okay,
I found it myself. I just have to read through it and find out, is it just for individuals that live in that particular region, or is it for any
right.
African American? Because it's a $5 million scholarship fund.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now that's a drop in the bucket for you know, some of these schools, especially you talking about Princeton, Yale, and
Oh yeah,
they got endowments of
Harvard.
billions and billions, so it's
Yeah,
like, from generations going to the same school and,
let's
wealthy
be
family
honest.
members.
Yeah, college. People. It's a people tend to make more money with a college education.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just what it is.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's just what it is. So
But let's say, are we still dependent upon that system? Let's say that, um,
racist white America,
yeah, 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 to hire us,
racist
basically.
gatekeepers.
Yeah, yeah, basically to hire us. So I mean, yeah, we got the education, but that's always been happening with people that were qualified, and then that's what they started the whole with affirmative actions and those type of things to try to put people to give us an opportunity to at least interview.
Mhm.
So I don't know. So that's why I said it's important to have a little bit of everything, because if we locking in on just one little thing, they can still find a way to pull that rug because they still own so much stuff, and we're building and they've already built.
Yeah, I just
So it's,
hope.
what I'm saying. So I think that it's advantageous and
Mhm.
prudent that we do have a little bit of everything so we can be a little flexible how we move and
Mhm.
start building our own stuff, institutions and that goes into Black colleges.
Yeah,
So that's another thing, as well, and things of that nature. So
yeah, me too, man. Because I'm definitely hope that when they having all of these committees, that they're just not talking amongst themselves, that they're also reaching out to economists,
yeah,
asking them, hey, what are some things that can really help um this community financially? And I think that'd be great. Just not leave it to themselves, because they may be short-sighted or not have the knowledge necessary to tackle this such a diverse issue.
yeah, yeah. And I was yeah, man. I was just thinking, man, what do you think? And we're gonna wrap up real quick, just from a spiritual perspective. What do you think God thinks about this? Just biblically, speaking. I mean, this is a biblical centered type
Right.
of channel. So um are there anything you could think of scripturally where somebody was repaired or that may be similar to what we're dealing with as Africans in America or foundational Black Americans, etc.?
Well, if we know anything about God's character, is that he loves judgment. He
Yeah.
loves judgment. And even when he was talking to the Pharisees and scribes, when he was talking to them about the keeping of the law, and but they left off the weightier matters, which was to do justice and to do love. And I call to remembrance Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17, where it says, where is it at? And this is the Lord speaking to the nation of Israel, and he's fed up with their lip service. And he started off in verse 14. He said, your new moons and your appointed feasts, my soul hates. They are a trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. And when you spread forth your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Yes, when you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Wash you, make you clean, put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil, learn to do well, seek judgment, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow.
Mm,
And
wow.
he's calling for them to
Yeah.
to right the wrongs that they've committed. Like we love to say God bless America,
Yeah.
but God's blessings are tied to, are you oppressing those who you have stewardship over?
Yeah. 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 So and we know, like I said, America has blood on our hands. So um yeah, God always hard is for the oppressed, the
Yeah,
poor, the downtrodden. I mean, you look at every category, every negative statistic, our community leads, and a lot of those, the majority of them in this country. So we fit that classification. Don't be
yeah,
fooled because we got some little entertainers running around here and rappers and all of that, and you think that they're not the majority of our community. They're the minority.
yeah,
And so you get fooled looking at them and thinking we made it. They're doing fine. I'm like, no, that's a small percentage, that has a lot of income, and that's a whole nother topic that we get into in terms of the fact the entertainers and they're, getting paid so much, et cetera. But and should they be even getting paid at that level
yeah.
for entertaining us? So,
But that's one
but
thing that I've come to understand. It's like not all of the ills of our community is connected to slavery
yeah,
or Jim Crow, but we definitely had some help.
yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, the racist leaders of this country in the past, they may be, and it still exists as a little more covert, but they try to hold us down every step of the way. It really wasn't until the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that we really started to obtain a, a shadow of the American dream. So
Yeah.
yeah, were better off than we were, but there's a lot of work to be done. And I think paying reparations can kind of get us to that next level.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna end it there. We went a lot longer than we expected, but again, this it is funny because we talk about we're gonna stay under this particular time and all of that. I said, okay, brother Will, here we go.
Some things,
It's
man, this is gonna be what it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. You say it's okay, man. 400 years, man, for an hour.
Yeah.
What can you compare it?
Yeah.
But I think that, like I said, this conversation is one of those conversations that, of course, will continue, and me and brother will I'm sure we'll be talking about it again because, like I said, like we said, there's a lot of things coming up, marches and more proposals and things going on in the countries, different states, different institutions. It's starting to really pick up some steam in our country. And so we're gonna be talking about this for a while. So so this won't be the last discussion, but we did, since it was something that recently, took place. We wanted to talk about it. And also we'd love to hear your opinion and what you think about it. You don't have to agree with us or anything, but we just want to hear your opinion, and we could just talk about it, as a country, as citizens, how we treat each other, and the importance of that. So, but we definitely always want to, again, this is a biblical based channel. So we always want to offer Jesus Christ to you, to make him personal Lord and Savior of your life. He changed, me and Brother Will life every day. He's walking with us. It's not about being perfect. It's about serving someone who is perfect. And so through Christ, he can strengthen us, lead and guide us into all truth, and help us through all these situations. And we do know we do have a real reparation. God is going to cleanse the earth and everything. He's going to give us a new body. There's no reparation better than having a new body. Right. So that's our ultimate, but it's still what's due is due. But right, from a spiritual perspective, we have something even greater than anything going on in the earth. And so all you have to do is accept, believe him, confess him in your heart, as your personal Lord and Savior, and Jesus Christ, he'll come into your heart and establish that relationship. And every day, just little by little, continue to grow and develop you. We also pray that you find a good Bible believing church, so you can get cemented, you can get planted and grow in fellowship with other brothers and sisters in Christ. And so if you make that commitment, feel free to reach out to us, send us an email, or just, drop a little note in the comment section. Let us know you gave your life to the Lord. We'd be so excited. If not, that's fine. We're just excited that you're in the kingdom. And so again, this Simple Complex Men, I'm D. We'll see you on the next video.